Hello, welcome to the Ghost of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 217 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 73 of A Storm of Swords. That's John 10.
And as always, we'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully we're going to provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note in this chapter. How are you, Mackelly?
I'm doing just fine. Getting ready for the holiday here.
Yes, we have Thanksgiving in America, which is a very nice holiday. It's one of my favourite American holidays because it's got a nasty backstory, but let's brush over that.
Sure.
In favour of the fact that people take the opportunity to sort of be with family and also to think of reasons to be thankful.
Which is always a good thing to do.
Quite. So I approve of this. I approve of this particular holiday.
Molly and I were at Dairy Queen last night. Dairy Queen is a place where you get ice cream here in the States. I don't know how far and wide Dairy Queen extends, but she told the person behind the counter, "Stay blessed," when they said, "Have a happy Thanksgiving," and she said, "Stay blessed." And we were walking out, and I said, "How do you know she's blessed in the first place?" And she said, "She's alive, Dad. She's blessed with her life." And I was like, "Oh, wow." It made me feel like an idiot. But she... So, yeah, I guess the point is you need to give, it's always good to give thanks for things, such as simply being alive.
Apparently. and the opportunity to serve Molly. I mean,
right.
Really, most would kill for this.
A blizzard upside down. You know, they have to turn it upside down before they hand it to you.
Oh, to prove that it won't slide out, right?
Yes.
I don't see the point.
I don't
what
either.
Is the appeal?
Does that
mean
know.
It's very cold?
Or thick, I guess. I don't. There's a little sign next to the register that says, if it's not served to you upside down, it's free. So it's really important to them to serve it to you upside down. I just don't understand why.
So I have a couple of interesting little stories for you, actually.
I love when you do, as do our listeners.
I saved them up. I was talking to a friend of mine whose son has just become a father.
Okay, yes.
And we were in quite a big group, and this person said, "Yeah, I still can't get my head around the fact that I'm technically a grandmother." And I said, "I'm not sure you need the word technically in there."
Right. Why technically?
I feel like you're intentionally distancing yourself from something that you actually are. Later on, it was a Teams meeting, and later she put a photo of the baby, who is absolutely adorable. And somebody was late to the meeting and came in and said, "Oh, is that the grandbaby?" And I said, "Technically."
Technically speaking.
And this same person was telling me that she herself has two sons. One of them is the new father, and the other one isn't. I mean,
okay,
kind of goes without saying, kind of thing. But one of the two sons had attention deficit disorder and was given meds for it when he was a child.
All right.
And one day, she didn't explain why this happened, but one day she gave the med to the wrong child and sent them off to school. And the child who didn't have ADD called her in the middle of the day and said, "Mom, I have got to get this stuff. I am crushing it at school today."
I think it has the opposite effect if you don't need it, right?
Well, apparently he was like, "Man, I am focusing on everything. I'm understanding everything." So possibly he was undiagnosed himself, but it cracked me up that he was just like, "Whoa, this kid's got it going on."
It's like the first time that, you put on glasses when you need glasses and you've been holding off on getting glasses.
Yeah.
Whoa. I don't wear glasses, but I know I need glasses. So I'll let you know how that feeling is whenever I finally break down. Yes.
Yes. I told you my theory about that. My theory is it sort of countervailing to not modern, but to sort of like generally held opinions. Glasses often bestow an appearance of intelligence on people.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
But my experience of getting glasses, which I did when I was about 30, was that they made me stupider.
Okay, do tell. Explain.
Where we live, again, I don't know if this is common around the world, but the road signs, particularly the road labels, so when you're going past a side street, their sign that says what the name of the side street is green with white writing.
Right.
Without my glasses, it is impossible to read those. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless I squint and use my staggering intellect to interpret those hieroglyphics, I can't read them without glasses.
Okay, you're doing less work now.
The day I got my glasses, my brain went, "Oh, you don't need me anymore."
I'm just going to take the time off here.
Exactly. I've been just a little bit dumber ever since. I've never quite recovered from that moment.
Oh, that's funny. I'd never thought about it that way.
Well, in your near future.
I guess so.
I had lunch today with an English guy called Simon.
Oh, that's confusing.
Who's my age, has an American wife and a 20-year-old son.
I think you've mentioned this guy before.
Yeah, I had lunch with him today, and it got weirder and weirder. Like, he was talking about, what is it with my American family? They can't turn off a light. I'm like, yes! And they don't know how to stick shift. Yes!
And Roger Palmer.
No, he did not mention Roger Palmer.
He didn't? Oh, okay.
My sister Sarah got into her car, and she... This story is not funny by itself. It's just the way my sister told it made it quite funny. Because she unraveled this story in a very particular way, leading to sort of quite a lot of humour. So she got in her car and she sensed that something was wrong. The glove compartment had been opened. Some of her she keeps like a bag of sweets, as we would call them, candy. And some of those had gone. And the stuff you keep in the door pocket had been pulled out and looked through.
Oh, yeah.
And she kept going. She kept adding more things. And she said, and the back seat had a wet patch on it. And
what could that be?
And so me and my brother were like, whoa, more and more keeps unraveling here. You started with a candy went missing, and now we've got a wet patch on the back seat. and there was a guy sitting right behind me. We were laughing so much about this. We kept on riffing on it. We had a like calling Ubers and getting in those Ubers and saying, "That's not where I left my candies. Someone's been in my." Oh wait, it's not my car.
Not my car. Well, yeah, that's something. You know, it was how she noticed things. My candies have been moved. Yes. That's been touched. There's a wet spot in my back seat.
I thought it might be a squirrel because nothing was stolen.
Oh.
Apart from the few candies, and it felt like a squirrel might have done that, you know.
Well, that's fascinating, and I'm glad that nothing was taken. So
me and my brother were laughing so hard at the way she told this story. She just kept on adding more and more and bigger details, you know, from nothing up to that. The back door was open and there was a wet patch. The car wasn't where I parked it.
Someone else was in the driver's seat.
Exactly.
I was sitting on a woman's lap.
That's where we started saying, was it an Uber? All right, then. Let us get down to business. How do we leave Jon Snow? Last we saw of Jon, he was fending off a wildling attack on the gate with a skeleton crew of fellow Night's Watch brothers atop the wall. After successfully repelling the latest attempt to breach the wall, he retired to his bed for some R&R. He was woken and dragged before Alistair Thorne and Janos Slynt. The pair charged him with treason and desertion and planned to fit him with a noose.
Uh-oh.
Mackelly, why don't we provide the summary of this one?
Seems prudent at this juncture. Well, Jon rides down the northern side of the wall in a cage, which is better than the end of a noose, so that's something.
True. Maybe that's what they meant, you know, the noose attached to a cage, lowering you slowly.
The experience isn't great, but it sure beats the small ice cell he'd come from. After Janus Slynt sent Jon away with the plan of hanging him, they shoved him in a cell cut into the base of the wall meant for storing food. He waited for 4 days until they returned to fetch him.
It seems Maester Aemon halted Jon's execution by writing to Cotter Pike at Eastwatch, insisting on Jon's innocence. No worries, Slynt and Alistair Thorne have a plan for Jon to show his loyalty to his brothers. It seems Mance Rayder wants to parlay, and Slynt is sending Jon as their representative. However, rather than hear terms, Jon is to kill Mance instead.
When the cage reaches the ground, Jon heads for the wildling camp across the killing field. He's met by Tormund Giantsbane. The wildling leader commends Jon and his brothers for their fight and is sad to hear of Egret's death. Tormund escorts Jon to Mance's tent. Harma Dogshead and Varamir's Sixskins urge Mance to kill Jon upon seeing him with his Night's Watch black.
Instead, Mance sends the rest away and invites Jon into his tent. There, Jon discovers Dalla being tended to by her sister Val. Dalla looks ready to give birth to Mance's child at any minute. Mance explains that through Varamir's eagle, who he took over warging from Oral, they know how depleted Castle Black is in both supplies and manpower.
Jon looks around the tent and sees a gigantic horn. Mance says it's the Horn of Winter. He also says that Egret lied to Jon about them not finding it. Jon questions why. If they have the Horn of Winter, haven't they used it? Mance says that he has the numbers to get past the wall if he wanted, but that the Night's Watch would bleed his people too much in the process, and his people have bled enough.
Jon is confused. His people haven't suffered that heavy losses in the battle. Mance says the losses aren't at the Night's Watch hands. The others grow stronger as it gets colder and darker. So unlike other kings beyond the wall, he isn't there to conquer. He's here with his tail between his legs. He simply wants to hide behind Jon's wall. That's why they haven't used the horn. If the wall falls, there's nothing left to stop the others.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. Jon imagines giants in Winterfell, free folk stealing daughters and wives, etc., and questions whether Mance can control his people enough to keep the king's peace. Mance laughs at that idea. They have no interest in kings or laws or taxes. He's offering a horn, not their freedom. If the Night's Watch refuse, they'll blow the horn in 3 days.
Jon's mind races. He should kill Mance now, or maybe destroy the horn, or both. But before he can take any action, a different horn is heard in the distance. The men race outside. Through his eagle, Varamir can see men on horses approaching from all directions. Mance and his leaders ride to engage in battle, leaving Varamir to watch Jon. However, in no time, Varamir is writhing in pain. Jon sees the eagle burning high in the air.
Val emerges from the tent to announce Dalla's labor has begun. Jon sends her back inside for safety. Battle and chaos is raging all around. Hundreds of men are pouring from the trees. Knights with banners, free riders, men-at-arms. They're riding over the wildling defenders. Only the giants are finding success. Unlike in the NFL.
It's good. I've really started watching the NFL. I have no idea what's going on.
The Giants are not playing well. I'll say that.
But I do know that the Steelers, Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in 17 seasons or whatever.
That is true.
Astonishing. Jon realizes the fight is done. The wildlings are throwing down weapons and running from the fight. It is then that Jon sees the largest banners of all, royal standards. For a moment, Jon wonders if his brother Robb has returned from the south. However, soon he sees that there are two standards, one yellow with a red heart and the other gold with a prancing black stag. His mind goes to King Robert until he hears the cries of Stannis, Stannis, Stannis.
Stannis!
Stannis! Well, yeah, that was good. we needed some action at the wall, and this is good action at the wall. It feels like it was stagnating with the battle between the wildlings and the wall because
it was, yes,
it wasn't getting anywhere. But this is
right. They were
although
deadlocked.
I will say that John 9, the arrival of Thorne and Slynt was made that chapter exciting too. But this is more momentous for the whole story, I feel.
Yes, very much so.
The first thing you pointed out when we talked about this was that the cell was 5 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet, which you found to be, you thought that would be pure torture. I think that's worse for you than me. I'm pretty sure I could lie across the diagonal of that cell. I mean, I could lie horizontally on the floor in that cell. You probably could lie sort of upper corner to lower corner, you know.
Oh, the thought of it gives me trouble breathing. Just so enclosed like that. It doesn't say whether the door is bars or like a wooden door and he's completely closed off in there.
You know what it should be? It should be just a block of ice that they cut out, slide out, push him in, slide it back, and then spray it with cold water so it refreezes.
Oh, yeah.
That wouldn't help, would it, Mackelly?
No,
that would make it worse.
Yes.
So just like a sort of ice blue 5 by 5 by 5 block with nothing in it except you.
Yeah, and of course you could just see the person in there, banging on the ice and pacing. Well, they can't even pace. They can't stand up.
Breakdance.
Oh man, it would be. It's such a inhumane thing to do in general, but to your own Night's Watch brother, I mean, that is something.
Yeah, it isn't actually a cell, is it? They don't use it. I mean, was it specially used for a cell for John, or has it been used this way before? Because it's a meat cellar, basically, right?
Right.
To keep food fresh.
They discovered that they can keep food fresh longer by shoving it in these storage areas in the wall. I don't think it was specifically designed. Like, John was the first prisoner they've ever thrown in there. They don't really say one way or the other.
Right.
But I'm guessing that it's been used before. But you never know.
I mean,
Alistair Thorne's involved.
Yeah, they have all kinds of things they could use. I mean, like, the cage he's dangling over the front of the wall in would probably work as well.
They could dangle him about, like, 350 feet up and just let the wildlings fire arrows at him.
That is an awesome idea, because you could really get a sense of where the archer's range is. You slowly lower your enemy into them. Yeah.
Or they could make him like a moving target, up and down and up and down. Back
Swing
and forth.
Swing me left to right. Swing me left to right. So Slynt does seem to have taken control at the wall and seems to actually be leading, for better or worse.
Yeah, it's just so weird. There was like no discussion about it, no letter from Cotter Pike saying, in the interim, I'm naming Jaina Slynt, interim Lord of Castle Black until Bowen Marsh returns. There was no vote. He just showed up and took over.
Yeah.
And it certainly doesn't seem that he has any clue who Maester Aemon is. He thinks to him, he says out loud, this blind man with a chain, who does he think he is? But I was thinking, you would think that Alistair Thorne would know, but maybe that's something that Maester Aemon doesn't broadcast, that he's the brother of King Aegon V.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he doesn't seem like the kind who would go, "Hi, I'm Maester Aemon, Targaryen."
Right. When a new person comes, they say, tell us a bit about yourself. Yeah. I am Maester Aemon. I could have been king. I chose not to because I'm humble.
I chose this. I'm an idiot.
It's almost, I found it almost laughable that Slynt figured that Mance Rayder must be asking for the parlay because Jaina Slynt is there, and he must be so scared now that Slynt's arrived that he's asking for a parlay.
Yeah. So Tormund meets John, and he's very forgiving of John for his turning of cloak and the deceit that he perpetrated on them all. I do think, presumably, he was under orders they probably saw Jon coming and they sent him out and said, "Don't let anything happen to him. We want to hear what he's got to say."
Yeah, yeah. He just he could have done that and been cold and silent toward him, but he seemed kind and understanding when they met, and he was jovial, and he commended them on a good job in this battle so far.
I think they have a genuine friendship, and life is hard north of the Wall, and stealing daughters and wives is kind of a dumb thing. So harboring grudges against those who've wronged you doesn't seem to be something that's that common. And Tormund seems like a pleasant sort of fellow when he's not murdering people.
Right, yes, he does, but he's not murdering people. He even threatens Varamir if Varamir touches Jon with any of his wargs. He says something like, "You lay a hand on him and I'll take that shadow skin cloak I've been wanting." So
right, yeah.
But possibly he knew that Jon had turned his coat back to black because of Varamir's eagle eyes. And so, maybe he had time to kind of process it and get over it. And, One thing about Tormund, it seems like Tormund is one of the few Game of Thrones characters who were actually made younger in the show. Because the description is that he has a white beard.
Yeah.
Which would indicate a certain age. And I'm pretty sure the actor did not have white hair, right?
Perhaps a little salt in the ginger, but
right, yes.
It was pretty, yes. He was
a
young man.
In so many instances, the Game of Thrones characters are made older than the Song of Ice and Fire book characters. Here we have the opposite happening.
Yeah. So the wildlings, Varamir actually has brought news to the wildlings of the situation at Castle Black and how dire it is. He's walking into Orrell's old eagle, which is strange because he's saying that as he's got a piece of Orrell in him now because of his walking to his old eagle, and so some of his hatred for Jon is that because Orrell hated Jon. But it's also interesting that the Night's Watch didn't look for that eagle because it would have been smart of them to bring that eagle down.
Yeah, and the eagle gets brought down in this chapter by an arrow.
Yes, exactly.
So you would think Jon should have nightmares about this eagle. You would think he'd be able to spot that eagle, and I know that eagle, take him down,
Maybe all of the death and wanton destruction at the foot of the wall was to keep the eyes of the Night's Watch pointing downward while the eagle surveyed everything going on and reported back.
That could be it. That could be. It was all just a diversion tactic.
Yeah.
There was, what we discover is that Mance knows how depleted the Night's Watch is. And we had discussed that before, that at least the wildlings didn't know how short of supplies and how short of brothers they were. So they wouldn't know, we've only got 4 casks left to drop on them. And then after those 4 casks, we're pretty much out of everything.
Right.
And so at least the Night's Watch had that going for them, but it turns out they didn't even have that going for them.
Right.
So.
Right. Which makes you wonder, so Slynt and Thorne claim that Mance wants to parlay.
Right.
Why would he at this point, given what he knows?
I guess.
Why not do it sooner?
I guess, yes. Well, there's definitely that question. Why fight at all? That we can get to when we get to all that stuff. But yeah, I guess he figures they're out of ammo. They can't keep this up.
That's true. Now's the time to talk to them because they may actually say yes to this.
Right.
Because they don't have a leg to stand on. Yeah, that's very true.
One thing I found fascinating from Varamir's Sixskins was this rule that we'd not heard of before, that once a beast is joined with a man, any skin changer can slip inside him. I think that's a new rule that we're learning here. Which,
but did he implicitly mean if that beast loses its skin changer?
He didn't say that, but maybe that's what he meant. Because I was thinking, does that mean that Varamir could control Ghost and Jon could control that shadow cat that was...
Well, Jon didn't do a very good job of controlling the eagle when it was tearing his face up.
That's true. I wondered if maybe the Starks and their direwolves are more than just warg and animal. There's some sort of extra special connection, because I just found that the idea that Vermeer could have just gone in and controlled Ghost at any point.
Yeah. I find that hard to believe. Find it. Sorry, I just made myself laugh here. No, that's not how warging works. But if you do add if that animal loses its skin changer, it is open to adoption by other skin changers, then it makes a lot more sense.
That does make a lot more sense.
Otherwise, the whole thing would just be a free-for-all all the time. You know?
Right. Stealing each other's wargs.
You'd be riding the snow leopard and suddenly it would eat you. You know?
Right. Yeah, skin changers would be playing pranks on each other,
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
One thing that happens right as Jon walks into the tent, he sees Val and Dalla, and he says to Val that he was sorry that Jarl fell, and Val responds, he always climbed too fast, and that was kind of all she had to say. I don't know how she knew that he was dead prior to that. I guess because the gate wasn't open, she could assume he failed, and Jarl, Steer and all the raiders that were supposed to open the gate must have died in battle.
And Jon didn't give it away. He just said, "I'm sorry, he's dead."
He said, I was sorry when Jarl fell."
Oh, so I see. You're not saying it's weird that she knew that he fell. She knew that he fell because Jon just said it. But it's the fact that she took his news of his death that quickly in her stride.
Yes, very casually, like, he always climbed too fast.
Yeah.
Like,
I told her
she might have assumed he was dead, or might have assumed he's captured.
Right.
She just reacted like, he always climbed too fast.
That
I thought
makes
that
sense.
a little odd. Didn't seem too shocked or interested in learning the details. Like, oh, is that how he died? He fell.
And nobody from that raiding party got back, right? Nobody.
No, they all went over the wall. I think in that chapter, I remember questioning what happened to all the horses that they left behind. So I don't think there were people that stayed on the north side of the wall.
What it was one of the horses was a warg. One of the guys who got killed. And now Varamir got in there and said, "What happened?" Oh, he climbed real fast and fell. Yeah.
Fell. That's what it was.
Of course, to a horse, pretty much any speed climbing the wall would look fast.
Yes, it would.
They'd be like, "No way I can do that."
Anyway, I just thought it was that she'd have more of a reaction to learning that her
they're
lover
wildlings
died.
And they're tough, but I do take your point. That does feel a little bit cold even for a wildling.
Yeah. She did say he was nothing but a plaything to her, but I don't know how true that actually was.
Yeah, but I get more upset if I lost a plaything. So according to the notes here, Mance has a giant horn. I see. And he says that it's the Horn of Winter. Now, Ygritte denied this. She said that they never found it while they were looking for it in the Frostfangs. Mance explains this to Jon by saying, well, she lied to you. I didn't actually trust you. I'm not an idiot.
Yeah.
It does make a lot of sense to lie to Jon, I'll have to say. But
it does. Agreed.
But then, if you didn't trust Jon, none of your other actions make a lot of sense. Because you sent him over the wall with Ygritte and company, and he got word to Castle Black that probably made the difference between success and failure of the Wildlings' attack on Castle Black.
Right, yeah. Why would you have sent him if you
didn't actually trust him?
Right.
So there's an alternative explanation here, which is Mance is lying.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. That could be. Certainly, Mance wasn't there at the top of the wall when Ygritte said to Jon, "We didn't find the Horn of Winter to bring this wall down." She was pretty upset. it didn't seem he thought she was crying because she was so exhausted from climbing, and she said, it's not about that. It's that we didn't find the horn to bring this wall down. It did not feel like a lie to me. She was exasperated about it.
Yeah. Of course, possibly she was not in the know. Although, given the size of the thing, it would seem like pretty much everyone would know that thing was found, you know?
Right. 8-foot long horn.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's possible that upper management lied to the rest to keep it a secret. Or she lied to Jon. Or...
But I agree with you. Thinking back on that scene, it didn't feel like she was lying to him.
I agree. Or that's not the Horn of Winter. It's got to be one of those three things, right?
But, it's all right, so let's go with the last of those. It's not the Horn of Winter. It's just a big old horn that they're pretending is the Horn of Winter to threaten to bring down the wall. It's a great fake, great idea, because, I mean, first of all, the thing's gargantuan. It probably could blow the wall down, even if it isn't the Horn of Winter. But if you are faking, why not go the extra mile that Jon asks for, which is promising that the wildlings will behave themselves once they go south of the wall? If you're trying,
yes,
because Jon's going to resist if you can't promise that. Promise it, empty promise. You're already lying about the Horn of Winter. One more little fib is not going to change things, but it might change things. It might make Jon go back and say, you know what, I agree with you. Let's open the gates.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, yes, that makes a lot of sense. Why, if he was lying about this, why would he not just lie about we'll behave? Why not in general just lie about behaving when they get on the other side of the wall?
Right,
you know?
Exactly, yeah.
They feel pretty desperate here. Why not just, yeah. King's peace. We're all about King's taxes. You
Scouts
want
honor,
taxes?
everybody. Scouts honor, yeah.
Right.
The other thing is, it is a terrific bargaining position to have a weapon that can never be used that you're willing to trade.
That's right. You can't test it. Yeah,
last one through the gate hands over the Horn of Winter. Like,
right.
Whatever you do, don't blow that thing.
Don't blow it. You don't want to blow your wall down. You got to trust me. It is what I say it is.
All right, Sam, I want you to go down to Storm's End and give this a little toot. See what happens.
So Mance says that he's got such a big force of wildlings that he could attack in multiple places and still have enough people at each place for success. And one specific idea that he throws out there that he could do if he really wanted to was he could send 10,000 wildlings on rafts across the Bay of Ice to take Eastwatch by the Sea from the southern side. And yeah, he probably could spare 10,000 people to go do that. I just was thinking about that, and I wondered, would Eastwatch be equipped to handle such a thing, being that they're a seafaring naval operation? They have ships and such.
If I was the commander of Eastwatch by the Sea, I would have some kind of defenses against 10,000 people coming around by the sea on rafts.
Right.
And Mance Rayder, as a former member of the Night's Watch, would know about that, I would imagine.
You would think. So maybe that's why he hasn't done it.
Possibly, yes.
You know, it's just like, you would think that rafts would be pretty easy to squash, even if there were 10,000 of them for a naval base like Eastwatch by the Sea.
Yeah.
You know? 10,000 is a lot, no doubt. First of all, getting 10,000 rafts into the water might get someone's attention. That's
true.
Sitting on top of the wall looking out.
Do you remember yesterday when there was a forest over there? do you think the wildlings might have had something to do with that?
That might be just how the conversation goes.
Exactly.
Didn't we have a lot of
we manned
trees?
This wall after all. Yeah, Man says he doesn't want to attack in multiple places like that because they would bleed too much. But he's talking about the bleeding not from the battles that they would have to fight with the Night's Watch, but more from the others. But I wonder about that because it feels like we've bumped into others sporadically in the north, but we haven't seen a concerted force of them yet. And you'd think that if they were, like, picking off the stragglers of Mance's army, that Mance wouldn't be camped in front of this wall. All 100,000 of them would be scrambling up it, you know?
Right. Yes. You would think there'd be
it feels like the threat is still kind of, like, vague at the moment, not specific.
Right. There is not the desperation that you might expect in this situation if the others were, like, hot on their heels. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It is very kingly of him to consider the lives lost in the equation for success.
Well, to be honest, given the state of the kings of the Seven Kingdoms, it's not in the least bit kingly to do that.
I was going to say, I don't think the previous king of the Seven Kingdoms would care so much about the cost of the loss of life. But is he right to be holding back like this? Like you were saying, he knows what's coming. I feel like the desperation might cause him to do whatever's necessary to save as many people as he can, and if that requires attacking the wall at different points along the wall, and some people dying because of it, be what it requires.
I'm going to go with he's painting a story to explain his actions, but the real story is he thinks that the Night's Watch will let him through because of the Horn of Winter, and so he doesn't need to do this. This is like, let's all gather here because we're going to be going through that tunnel later this week.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. But, so he talks about his tail between his legs, and we were just talking about it's not quite the desperation we would expect. And another example of it is the fact that he won't even consider adhering to the rules of the Seven Kingdoms in return for passage south of the wall. Like, which is it? Which is worse for you? Staying north of the wall and being picked off by others, or having to pay taxes?
Maybe he feels he can't speak for the wildlings in that particular instance.
Could be.
But
sure.
Maybe as the wildlings file through the wall one by one, they could all sort of like, take a chit. Chit says, behave yourself.
Right.
If you won't take the chit, then you don't come through,
Yeah.
Then it's your individual decision. It's not Mance telling you have to kneel. It's your choice,
right?
As an individual wildling.
Sure. Yeah, it's a real conundrum for the Night's Watch, and Jon being the face of the Night's Watch here in this conversation with Mance, because if they do nothing, they leave these tens of thousands of humans to die
of future whites.
Yes, and even if they didn't reanimate, just leaving them to die at the hands of the others is bad enough, but then they're going to reanimate and add to the ranks of the whites, like you just said.
Right.
Or you let them through and create chaos in your realm, and, that's not great either.
But we've already hypothesized this before. The deal is your fighting age men join us on the wall. You're old, you're young, your women can go farm, take whatever they need to survive, but the fighting age men stay with us and fight on the wall. You know how bad this threat is. Help us defend it.
Yes.
And that's the tax. There's no tax. The tax is you help us.
Yeah. But are you thinking life sentence? Or are you thinking
no?
Until the threat has been extinguished?
I said this at the time. You because the whole thing is temporary. When winter recedes, you all go back north of the wall.
Right. Yeah.
You can stay in the Night's Watch if you want, but then you got to take the vow. But you're not forced to stay. Huh. Everyone can go back.
Right. It felt like Jon seemed to consider the idea if they were willing to uphold the king's peace. He said to him, "Are you a true king? Can you rule your friends? Can you get them to adhere to the king's peace?" And Mance made it very clear they had no interest in rules or laws or taxes of the Seven Kingdoms. So it'd be hard to overlook that from the Night's Watch perspective and from Jon's perspective.
Which is
here.
why I can't understand why Mance can't bring himself to just say, hey, can't speak for all of them, but yes, in general, we'll behave ourselves,
Right. Well, now we'll see if, things are slightly different than they were when they had this conversation at the end of the
Right.
chapter. So maybe they'll be more willing to agree now.
Yeah, Mance could say, when Stannis says you've got to bend the knee, Mance will say, well, they really don't want me to. Could you ask around? You know, take a show of hands here. So Jon is really considering the assassination attempt, which obviously would be pretty suicidal. But
Yes,
right
yes, it
as
would.
he is thinking about that, the battle arrives, so it sort of saves him. I do think, though, that he should actually have been taking the offer back, because the offer is still okay. If he said, look, Mance can't promise they'll behave themselves, but as we've said many times, it's 100,000 whites or it's a problem on the other side of the wall. Take your pick.
Yeah. I guess it depends on how much of a threat 100,000 whites are on the north side of the wall.
Well, if you leave them with that Horn of Winter...
Oh, true. Yes, you might want to take that with you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how White's lungs work. Maybe they...
That could be a problem. Right.
Yeah. So I'll say it's a bold decision of Stannis to ride west from Eastwatch, north of the wall.
Yeah.
He had to make a
it is.
decision at the
thought about
outset
that.
there.
Yeah.
And he made the decision to be north of the wall. It would be very cold and in shadow constantly, because we've talked about how long that shadow, that wall casts.
Oh, right. Yes, you have.
And you would be very unsure of the welcome that you'd receive. You know, the rumours of how big Mance's army at Eastwatch, those rumours must have been through the roof, 250,000.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't know what he was going to face, but it was the right side to be on, because if he'd been on the other side, he couldn't really have helped here. They're all coming down that cage one by one with arrows flying at them.
Right. They've blocked the gate, so they can't get through the gate, so they could have as many thousands of knights as they want on the southern side of the wall, and it really wasn't going to do much good in this situation.
Horse scrambling down the wall, and Varamir Sixskins saying, "Told you," or at least his horse was anyway.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they could take as long as they want filtering through the gate at Eastwatch. You know, they could filter however many. We never get a number of
they could
their
just jump
army
on the
size,
rafts.
but oh yeah, that's right. Take the rafts across. But during the battle, Jon sees the heavy horse, hears the trumpets, and thinks this is like a serious army here. And he thinks to himself, could it be Robb returning north? And it just reminded me that he doesn't know that Robb's dead. When he got back, when he got back to Castle Black, I went back and checked, because I was like, why is he thinking that? He was only told of Bran and Rickon's death when he got back to Castle Black. So
would Slynt and Thorne wouldn't know either. They've been on a boat since long before Robb died. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's funny. When he said that, I thought he was discounting it because he was like, no, stupid, Robb's dead. But he didn't say that because he doesn't know it.
Right. Now, someone who does know it is Stannis. So if he gets to talk with Stannis, he might learn of Robb's death.
Do we see any houses of note in amongst Stannis' men?
He mentions 3 sigils that he doesn't know what they are. He sees a seahorse, a field of birds, and a ring of flowers. And based on who I know is in Stannis' camp, the seahorse is obviously House Valerian.
Valerian, I knew that one.
Yes. And then the field of birds, House Karen has their sigil is black nightingales on a yellow field. And I think it's Varamir that mentions how much yellow he sees. So that would fit as well. Of course, most of those yellow standards are for Stannis, but...
Yes, true.
And then the Ring of Flowers, House Florent, their sigil is a fox head circled by blue flowers. So that sounds like a ring of flowers to me.
So why is Stannis here?
Right? Why is Stannis here? It certainly seems like the letter that Davos was reading with Maester Pylos when he was learning to read must be the letter that he read to Stannis while Stannis was standing over him holding Lightbringer about to lop his head off.
Oh, yeah. Bring that a little closer, could you? Yes, thanks.
Right. No, why did this letter sway Stannis to forgo his attempts to win the Iron Throne and instead sail to the end of the world?
I hope that's rhetorical, Mackelly, because I need you here.
Okay. Well, so that letter that Davos read, it spoke of Mormont's defeat at the Fist of the First Men and wildlings possibly taking control of the Wall. Now, you might recall that Stannis spoke of seeing a battle in the flames, and the description fits the battle at the Fist of the First Men pretty well.
It did, yes, I remember that. Yeah.
So, possibly he or Melisandre, someone has connected these things, and Stannis feels like since he saw that image in the flames, he must be meant to be involved in some way.
Right.
So,
okay.
And possibly that he wants to show that he's the true king. He will come and stop this threat from the north, while the Lannisters sit their little boy king on the Iron Throne and do nothing.
A little bit of PR never a bad idea.
Right. Nobody seems to want to do PR. Maybe Stannis is going to be the first.
Who wrote the letter? Is it from Maester Aemon?
Well, it says when we'd heard about it, it said it was from Bowen Marsh. But
it's from Bowen Marsh.
It must have been Maester Aemon that wrote the letter. Although maybe Bowen Marsh, he's the Lord Steward. Maybe he does know how to write, and maybe he wrote it himself. But
okay.
The Lannisters were concerned last chapter that Stannis was going to go to Sunspear because of Oberyn Martell's death at the hands of the Mountain. I think maybe he would have, but surely he left Dragonstone before news of the trial by combat reached him, because it would be a bit of a trip to get from Dragonstone to here.
Quite.
So,
well, why don't you give us some background, Mackelly?
Sure. Well, so Mance mentions that other kings beyond the Wall came south to conquer, whereas he came with his tail between his legs. Whether he actually did or not is debatable, I guess. One king he mentioned was Raymond Redbeard. And like most kings beyond the Wall, Raymond united the wildling clans under him, and in 226, he noticed a decline in numbers and an increase in laxness of the Night's Watch, and took the opportunity to attack. Using pretty much the same method that Jon and company did when they scaled the Wall, initial climbers getting up there, then throwing down ladders, and everyone else coming up, he managed to get a pretty sizable army of wildlings over the Wall. The army began to wreak havoc on the southern side of the Wall, causing Lord Willem Stark to march to meet them along with Lord Harmon Umber. The clash happened along the shores of Long Lake. During the battle, Raymond killed Willem Stark, but then Raymond was in turn killed by Willem's younger brother, Artos Stark. Raymond's sons were also killed in the battle, but his younger brother, who was called Red Raven, managed to escape and make it back north of the Wall. Where was the Night's Watch in all of this? Well, they were asleep at the wheel, pretty much. By the time they showed up to the fight, it was already over. And Artos Stark, a.k.a. Artos the Implacable, by the way, ordered that the Night's Watch dispose of the dead, and the Night's Watch Lord Commander, whose name is Jack Musgood, was dubbed Sleepy Jack afterward. This attack here by Raymond Redbeard was the last major wildling threat to the Wall until this current attempt by Mance.
Interesting. So it feels like they have to gather together before they really attack the Wall. The sort of like clan by clan, they don't bother attacking the Wall. They see it as too inevitable.
Right.
Once
needs
they
to
are
be
under,
yeah, it needs to be a king to unite them all.
Yeah. So, comparison with the television show, this was more similar than I'd remembered. In fact, I barely remembered that Stannis. I remember Stannis came north, but I didn't really remember the whole attacking the wildlings north of the Wall. It just passed me by. But Jon does go out to parlay with Mance, but there's no sense in the TV show of him being sent on a suicide mission. Like, he's not told. At least I couldn't find a scene where he's told to go north of the Wall and talk to Mance. He just goes.
Right.
He's disarmed, but keeps his eye on the potato peeler that he thinks he might skewer him with. No Dalla and Val, so that aspect of the story was dropped
completely. Right? There's no Dalla and Val.
No Dalla, no Val, as far as
show at all.
I don't think so. And there's no Horn of Winter.
Oh, okay.
But
much less negotiating power there.
Right, less negotiating power. But he does say he has a different threat. He has sent a large force over the wall 4 miles east. They've climbed the wall and they're going to attack Castle Black from behind. And and so he feels like it's going to fall to them anyway, so they should let them through now. Many of the things they talk about are very similar.
I have to say I feel for you, because that must have been confusing trying to keep that bit and the actual book canon separate in your head.
The worst part is when I read what happened on the TV show, which I often do, because it's very hard to find the scenes, so I have to use resources to find which scenes to go look for, and then I'll read the scene before I watch it, but now it's in my head that I read it, and now forget it.
That's why one of us does it, so that I can tell you when you got the two confused.
But yes, then Stannis arrives, and Mance doesn't have an opportunity to kill Jon, although he's certainly thinking about it, and accuses Jon of being in on the plot. But Jon's like, I do not know who these people are, you know.
Right.
Pedantry corner. I don't have any pedantry about this chapter in particular, but there's pedantry against one of my own theories. So one of my own theories for the randomness of duration and frequency of the winters was that they are actually caused by giant volcanoes north of the wall that spew out dust and, you know, it blocks the sun for months on end or years on end.
Yeah, I remember. I thought it was a good theory.
In this chapter, it is mentioned that the days are getting shorter.
It is, right.
Well, a volcano wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is a tilt of the Earth's axis.
Yeah. Huh. Well, okay. I see your point. Yeah.
So,
fair point.
I mean, it is possible, of course, that it's a combination of those things. And we did talk about the fact that the Earth's tilt, our Earth's tilt, does vary marginally. And if this planet's tilt varied more, it could be random and hard to predict.
Yeah. Okay.
So, could still be that.
Good stuff.
News and notes.
Well, it's recently been revealed in the new book Oppenheimer, inside Christopher Nolan's explosive atomic age thriller, written by Jada Yuan, that Nolan rented out none other than George Martin's train, which is called Sky Railway, to film several scenes in the movie Oppenheimer. Huh.
Well, actually, can I interject? You know your celebrity lookalike.
Who is my celebrity lookalike?
Come on, who's your celebrity lookalike?
Well, I've had people say I look like Corey Stoll, but I don't think that's who you mean.
Oh, that's good, actually. I had never thought of that. That's actually better than most. No, this is one that you've been told, and I believe your reaction was, I'll take that!
Oh, yes! Channing Tatum, that's his name. Tatum. No?
Nope, not even that one. Mr. Emily Blunt.
Oh, yeah. What's...
John Krasinski, right?
Yes, I was going to call him Jim Halpert. John Krasinski,
yes.
Right.
Yes, right. He was in a movie called Leatherheads or something like that,
yes.
About American football.
Yes, he was.
There was a scene on a train in that, and that train is in Salisbury, North Carolina, and I've ridden on it since that movie was made.
Wow. So okay.
That was why that came up.
Well, anyway, back to Oppenheimer. It seems that they covered up the A Song of Ice and Fire themed decor to make the cars of the train look more like typical 1940s train cars. And then they just took the trip back and forth, which is about 40 minutes from Santa Fe to Lammy, New Mexico, shooting their scenes. So, yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. I would love it if they would have just left one for us to look for in the movie.
Right, yes. Little Easter egg in there.
Yeah. Just a crowned stag somewhere hiding. So you were telling me that our Ghost of Harrenhal merchandise site has caught fire. Dan's new design with the microphone and the raven.
Yes.
Flying off the shelves. That's awesome.
Have.
That's great. So fill your Christmas goodie bags with stuff from there if you want. Ghostofharrenhal.threadless.com. We have some great deals right now, yeah? Just in time for the holidays.
For the holidays, yeah, a lot of really great
Perfect.
deals. So check it out. Right now, I think T-shirts are like $13, which is
Sweet.
Pretty good deal.
And as I was saying before, it is US Thanksgiving, and I was thinking of what I'm grateful for, and it is the people that we have as listeners and friends on this show are
absolutely.
what I'm most grateful for in the world.
Absolutely.
Brighten our lives immeasurably. So Thank you all very much.
What he said. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
All right, let's conclude this one. We are getting near the end, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, this behemoth of a book is almost behind us, Mackelly.
I know. I noticed yesterday, I think it was, that we're inside of 100 pages left, at least on my e-reader version. We've got 7 chapters and the epilogue left. That's it.
You know what? We are exactly 100 pages in my paperback.
Okay.
We are on page 1027. 100 left to go.
Yeah. I think we're on page 966 or something like that of my
very similar
e-reader.
Size. Yeah. And so much has happened to John. You know, he's been the hero. He's been lover. He's been a fighter. He's been
accused
in a 5x5x5 cage.
Accused of treason. Was supposed to be hung to death. All manner of things. He lost Ghost.
Presumably, he's going to be midwife to Dalla's baby is next on the list.
Yeah, the chapter ended with, after he heard the Stannis, he turned around and went back into the tent.
Exactly.
I do fear a bit for Dalla. I mean, there was no midwife. That's Val, her sister, said, I need to find the midwife. And John said, you're the midwife. Get back in there because you're not going anywhere out here. It's chaos.
And we know how caring she is. Oh, yeah.
At least Jarl, maybe she was like, I didn't really care for him that much anyway, for being honest.
She comes out like 5 minutes later, no blood on her, and she's like, oh, she died in childbirth. Well, you know, told her. Stannis arrived just in time to save Jon. It is possible that he could knock some heads together here. I mean, if he, again, the only solution, as we've said for 3 books now, is to invite the wildlings through the wall. And maybe Stannis can cut through this Gordian knot and make that happen. Yeah,
it's all about getting them to follow the rules of the 7 kingdoms. You come into this new land, there are rules that
But even not even that, because you're not going to make them full citizens of the 7 kingdoms. You don't have to follow. They don't have to follow the rules in the same way. Carve out something for them temporarily. Let them have that.
Sure. The gift and the new gift.
Exactly. Within the gift and the new gift, you can house all those wildlings, and they would barely crowd the people that are there. Don't molest those people.
Yeah, if they can get them to
and
agree
go
to
home
that.
when we tell you to.
Yeah, it's hard to, once they're on that side, I guess it's hard to assure that they will do as they agreed.
And I think it's hard for the Southerners, by Southerners I mean everybody south of the wall,
right,
to understand that the wildlings want to go home.
Yeah, and it's also...
There is a perception that they want to get south of the wall forever, always. That the wall is the only thing keeping them from coming south 24/7. But the wildlings actually want to live north of the wall. They're just coming south to shelter from the others.
Yeah. But it's also hard for people south of the wall to understand why the Night's Watch would let them through. To believe that the Snarks and the Grumpkins are a real threat that they need to be protected from.
But the Night's Watch know it, and Stannis obviously knows it to a certain extent. That's why he's come.
Yeah, you're right. Now that, speaking of Stannis being there, now that he's run over Mance's force, it seems pretty likely Mance is going to lose possession of the horn.
Right.
Will like we were talking about earlier, will that be enough to get them to do as agreed upon? Agree upon whatever rules they're going to agree upon for these people coming through.
You lost your bargaining chip.
Right. Yeah.
So will Stannis shake up things at Castle Black?
John's going to need
leadership. Jon needs that to happen for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
But he probably barely knows Janos Slynt. I mean, although they must have overlapped, but Slynt's Slynt's elevation to what he was in King's Landing happened after Stannis had left.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows of him. I'm sure he's been in meetings where Janos Slynt has come to give some sort of report on what's going on in the city or the Gold Cloaks. I think way back in the day, we were told that Stannis once tried to ban prostitution in the city. I'm sure the commander of the Gold Cloaks had to hear about that, you know.
Good point.
So I'm sure there is some sort of discussion or some sort of interaction. Hopefully he knows what I don't know, what's a good British term for what Janos Slynt is. You guys have the good terms.
There aren't any that are PG enough for the podcast.
Okay. What a lickspittle, can we say?
Well, lickspittle that's a very nice word. It's not necessarily perfectly apt in this situation, but it's a great word. Yeah.
It is. Anyway, hopefully he knows that about Slynt, what kind of person Slynt is my point.
Yeah, it says here in the notes that Stannis gets a reunion with his family, but who are you talking about?
Well, so he gets a reunion with his great-great-uncle because Stannis' grandmother was Rhaelle Targaryen, the daughter of Aegon V, who was niece to Maester Aemon.
There you go. How about that?
I'm not sure either will see it that way, considering his brother Robert overthrew the Targaryen dynasty. But but they could put it's family. If you could put politics aside, maybe they could talk about the weather.
If Stannis was aware, you could definitely, say, "Hey, I know my family killed all your family, but we're family too."
Right. Just that one branch killed the other branch.
Right. Exactly. We're just blood-wise, we're just as close. We just don't have your last name.
Right.
And on the subject of blood, I am worried about Mance's blood. Remember that
I liked that tie-in there.
Is a king. And remember, 3 leeches of a king's bastard's blood killed 3 kings.
Right.
What could you do with a whole Mance Rayder?
Yeah. Yeah.
You could rebuild the wall. You blow the wall down and rebuild it.
I guess. If they consider a wildling a king at all, that might be his saving grace. And also, last we saw of Mance, he was being overrun by mounted knights. So his horse had a spear through its chest. So it's possible Mance could be dead.
Yeah.
We saw that Harma's head was on a spear being kind of swung around and mocking her dog's head standard.
Are you willing to bet that Melisandre's come this time?
It would be really dumb for Stannis if he left her at home this time.
Because basically he regretted not taking her to the Blackwater, right? So I assume she's there this time.
I would think so too. Yes.
Right. And next week we have Arya.
Yes, she and the Hound make it back to the inn at the crossroads where they meet 2 old enemies and 1 long lost friend.
So wait, she's not the one with Steel Shanks Walton?
I don't know. That we were told that was Arya Stark, right?
Apparently. Okay, maybe an Arya POV will clear that one up for us. All right.
Hopefully.
There's 4 ways that you could help us. You could leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review. There's no better way to spread the word. You can buy some merchandise, take advantage of the new sigil and the deals that we've got for the holidays at ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com. You could buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhal and become a sustainer at one of the many levels available to you. Or you could just donate directly to our cause through our website, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com.
And if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, keeping up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, well, you can check us out on our social medias. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghosts Harrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.